In the chaos of a vast universe, very much like our own, a collection of forces came together and through much struggle created a planet. Forged in fire and tempered by ice, a world was born, suffice for life. This was Omnia. This planet, Omnia, brimming with potential, built up and broke down all the elements flowing through it, with microscopic factors coming together to create the building blocks of a bigger world. Forces great and small struggled in the blind terraforming of a truly magical landscape. And in this world weathered by millennia of terrestrial and cosmic consequences, the spark of life takes centre stage. Complexity develops as entropy falls behind. Life and death. The revolution of reproduction carries survival forward, encouraged and enabled by their environment, influenced by the complex systems of Omnia that led them into evolution or extinction. A creature soon emerges, brimming with potential and ambition, its sights set ahead. Humanity. Social creatures by their nature, they came together to survive in groups and they spread across the globe as hunter-gatherers in search of better lands to exploit, just like many other animals. But they were born with a unique intelligence and awareness of their place in the world, allowing them to grasp at the intangible and to create purpose. This ability let them take the raw materials around them and craft a revolution the world had never seen before. Tools, traditions, complex language. They conquered fire and made it their own, creating the very torches that illuminated the path that lay before them. They used their intelligence to mould the world around them, leading them to settle down and plan their way forward. Instead of searching for their food, they cooperated with their world and uncovered its potential. An agricultural revolution. This greater system of food production led to surplus, which led to being able to sustain such numbers of people never conceived before. They outgrew the necessity for all to work the land, creating opportunity for greater collective learning, producing more potential innovators, and developing a complex society. Civilization. While many still worked the land, others had the chance to discover, manipulate, and build upon everything around them. The diversification of labour led to leaders, craftsmen, doctors, judges, priests, bureaucrats, soldiers, tax collectors, servants, and rulers. Mankind thrived on manipulating the natural world. They exploited materials, animals, and even one another. The long path ahead of them made no promises to be just, and many innovators created systems in which they and their own were on top, and others were below. A system perpetuated, injustice prolonged, a people oppressed, a struggle of power. Is this the nature of mankind? A brutal crusade of social injustice, a mere culmination of our species, doomed to repeat this end of history time and time again? Or is this just the prologue to revolution? A story that has been told 1,000 times over, but every word must first be spoken. Every letter must first be written, and every great movement of mankind begins with one person taking that first step. In those days, those ancient days and those ancient nights, many steps were taken to create a greater world. But not all steps forward went down a righteous path. Societies, once formed by humans to better care for one another, often grew back into the old ways. In creating a greater world, plenty of opportunities arose for some to craft or corrupt systems into protecting and profiteering some people over others, and thus injustice persisted. The revolutions of old were either forgotten or used as proof that their regime, even generations later, and reasons lost, was ordained by the people. And so, as their civilizations grew, the sights of society soon looked beyond caring for their brothers and sisters, and instead sought great riches, power, and lands. The working classes below adapted into the way of things. The ruling class's prosperity was all their prosperity. So they fought for their rulers' expansionist ideals, as enough was never enough. This corrupted cleverness of mankind, however, was pervasive, and so across this great world of Omnia, many rose up and claimed power and riches and lands and crafted and corrupted their own systems into great unjust civilizations. With these great countries encroaching upon one another, conflict became almost inevitable, creating forever wars until one is victorious. This was empire. Empires. To stop expanding is to collapse. To not see growth is to fail. To not dominate is to be dominated. Driven by the unjust systems, the civilizations churn ahead, led by rulers who see anything short of having it all be akin to the fall of civilization itself. The inevitable rush of history brought misery to the world. The magic of the world was burned away in the pursuit of great powers. The empires, as if a person itself, set its sights high, and all the peoples below became ashes in their conquest. In the rush of civilization, it can seem like one alone can do nothing. Like the cosmic tides, no matter how hard you push, nothing changes. As if it were all predestined, being read out by some descendant after the fact. We say we're living through history. We seldom say we are ever writing it. But there are those, the providential few, the privileged few, the powerful few, who are there with the quill in hand. Empires. It's in their nature to collapse, as nothing lasts forever. But how they fall apart and what happens to the pieces afterwards is in the hands of mankind. What comes next? That is the question. Who decides? Who supports? Who defies and who reports? Who would bear the whips and scorns of time? Civilizations fall and civilizations rise. Mankind rises. And so long as all the players do their part, the men, the women, the rest, then the path ahead may light the right way. However, as history is still forever being written, the words can rhyme with the times of before. The cunning, the crafty, the corrupting few who may rise to power through the systems that are and the systems that aren't, and like a snake in the garden, can be created in a new and unjust way. The light of a new day approaches, and amongst the dust of a fallen empire, new decisions are to be made. The line of queens, kings and monarchs races ahead through bright ages and dark ages and the ages in between. The faces change, but the systems still exist. The pretense is replaced, but the injustices still persist. Perpetrators persevere, and the charge of time takes its toll. Atrocities for the sake of the great and bountiful new empires take place. But upon the stage stands the rulers playing petty politics as the powers around them play their games. Every act was met by mere sayings that history will soon judge them, allowing the perpetrators to live full lives unjudged. Generations pass, and those who then attempt to bring judgment upon the legacies of perpetrators were shunned for erasing history, allowing uncritical glorification. When new figures tried to recapture the glory of the old perpetrators, committing the same atrocious acts, their opponents were met by mere sayings that history will soon judge them, and the ink dries. But time races onwards, and the new artifice fades into greater unjust systems, peddling people's lives for profits. Time and mankind collide, and technology wakes the world to greater powers, far more powerful than the natural magic of mankind alone, and civilization thrives on what they have thrived upon since the beginning: the manipulation and exploitation of the world around them. As their power increases and the injustices prevail, the planet they live upon begins to wail. The Capital Age. Suffering persists, and eventually the abusive systems and the perverse people who rule lead mankind down a dark and desolate path. And injustice persists, expands and reaches its absolute limit. The ages change, but the systems still exist, and like the empires before, Omnia witnesses another great collapse. When faced with devastation in all its totality, the path of least resistance can no longer be peace. For the people, for the companies, conflict became almost inevitable. And so, mankind brought about the end of their world. The end of their world as they knew it. Revolution in Omnia, all across the world, resisting the way and burning the predestined sponsored path ahead. Like a fever upon sickness, the way was burned away. And in the collapse, there was a rebirth. A collection of forces came together and through much struggle, recreated civilization, a better world for their image. So, forged in fire, tempered by ice, a new world was born, suffice for a better life. This was no utopia, nor perfect in any way, but history doesn't end, so there's still time for change. Dictators rise and capital thrives, and there is still plenty of people who protect these ways. The world of Omnia is no paradise, but it is my home, and I will fight for it. I see old problems return and new ones too, but to struggle is human, to fight divine. And fight is what mankind has done since the dawn of time. Complexity develops and entropy follows, like life and death, in a dance of love, with every new generation a rebirth of the last, with another chance to do better, be better, see better, live better. Looking at our history, it's easy to forget that we still hold the quill of our age. We can all interpret the world, but the point of mankind is to change it. So, I leave you now with a voice of our time. A girl with a torch and a path before her. This is a story that has been told 1,000 times before. But every lesson must still be retold, and every great movement of mankind begins with one person taking that first step.